Welcome to Mainland Television Regional News. I'm Graham O'Brien, and coming up in today's bulletin, a dampener on wood burners, Council continues to ride Hone, Nelson on home brew, and a Christmas feast with the mayors. Wood burners are on the Council agenda, but not with any public consultation so far. And with the debate going to a full Council meeting on December the 11th, it is hard to see how there will be. Although it has been reported by other media that there may be room to allow wood burners back into some areas, there are no recommendations from administration to relax the restrictions, even though there is capacity for doing that in some areas. And others, like Area C, which includes Adelphi, the Wood, the Brook and City Centre, that have never had an issue. Adding to that, the questions being raised around the accuracy of reports given by Ed Kettle from the DHB that have linked 20 deaths to pollution, where in fact our sources say that all evidence points to a sharp increase in respiratory illnesses being reported in Nelson since 2004, when the new laws were introduced. Tasman District has fewer restrictions on wood burners and has seen no such rise in respiratory illnesses. Another contentious issue that is linked to the debate is that of insulating homes for those with children or people who have been hospitalised more than twice with a respiratory illness. Should Nelson ratepayers be contributing to insulating landlords' rentals? We have been unable to get any comment from Councillor Ackland, who served as chair of the Working Party, whose report will be presented to a full council meeting on the 11th of December to vote on. We are waiting for the Mayor to respond and a copy of the Working Party report to arrive from Council. Entrain was a series of outdoor dance parties which were held in the Nelson region for the 3 New Year's Eves prior to the first gathering. And now, close to a decade later, police in Canterbury are keen to talk to a witness to an alleged sexual assault that occurred on New Year's Eve 1995-96, when a woman from Christchurch travelled to a dance party in the Greater Nelson area called Entrain, held at Golden Downs, where over 3,000 people were in attendance. The alleged victim from Christchurch travelled to the event with 2 other women and 2 men in a VW Combi van. The group stopped and camped at Quinning's Bush campground on the day before the New Year's Eve event. Police would like to speak to Barney, the man shown, as he is a potential witness to this incident. If you are Barney from the photographs or you know who Barney is, please contact police. Information can be provided anonymously by calling Crime Stoppers on 0800 555 111. This week, Lewis Stanton went to the High Court in an appeal to overturn an injunction made by Nelson City Council, which orders him to comply with the parking bylaw made by Council in central Nelson. In October, an injunction sought by the Nelson City Council was granted by Judge Arthur Tompkins, which now means that Stanton, more commonly known as Hone, now has to pay for parking and adhere to time limits within the city centre. The Council sought an injunction because Stanton has repeatedly ignored its parking bylaw, racking up more than $50,000 in fines for parking his horse and cart in the CBD. Stanton made the appeal on Monday through his lawyer Stephen Zindel in the High Court at Nelson before Justice Lowell Goddard. Judge Goddard has reserved her decision. We sent James, who caught up with Hone, to ask him why he thinks he's been unfairly targeted by the council and what would be the effect on him by this latest injunction.
Hi there, I'm here today with Hone to talk about some of the trouble he's been having with the council recently. So Hone, why do you feel you've been targeted by the council?
Well, for a start, each and every one of us are entitled to have the freedom of movement in this country. Each and every one of us have the freedoms to make a choice in our today's society. You know, like if we want to live in a conventional house with a conventional telephone or have a car or anything like that, we've all got to sign on that dotted line. I chose not to sign on that dotted line. I was freely moving around the place when the Nelson City Council violated my basic human rights by, first of all, continuing to try and stop me from coming here to Nelson with a 99.644% blanket ban. Now that wasn't the first time. There's a case going back in 2001 in which the council lost. There's a case in 2006, 2007 for basically the same things. It's all to do with trespassing that the council also lost. and then they try the blanket ban. Okay, if they can get away with trespassing myself, for instance, or getting away with doing what they're doing to myself, then what's to stop them from doing it to you? If they can get away with doing it, if the Nelson City Council can get away with doing it to me, then what's to stop every other council from doing exactly the same?
That's true. And so say this, if all this injunction does go through, what kind of effect is this going to have on you and Barney?
Well, if the injunction goes through, it means that I won't be able to be in the CBD. Okay. First of all, we have to find out whether that injunction was in actual fact legal. But even before that, we have to find out why the Nelson City Council is not having to be held accountable for their stuff up in the first place. When the council can own the problem that they created, then they're in the right place to solve the problem. And if by law one rule fits for all, that all their bylaws all fit for everybody, then why don't the statute laws of this country fit for everybody? So it's a matter of principles. Now, when the council, if they get away with this injunction, it's being questioned at the moment on whether it's actually necessary to have that injunction, then it will mean that I would have to try and make a living to be able to feed my horse, which is my dependent because of the Nelson City Council's actions in the first place, means that I won't have the same foot traffic. I won't be able to interact with Joe Bloggs and everybody else, which is part of what our social system is. And so, where are and what are those failures in our today's society? I'm not going to be a paying victim, full stop.
So Barney, what do you feel about everything that's going on at the moment? He doesn't seem too impressed either, really. Don't blame him.
Stanton will appear for sentencing in the Nelson District Court on December 12th for breach of community work. People can now get their tickets for the Mayor's Christmas Dinner. For more than 30 years, this Mayor's Christmas Dinner event has been going strong, thanks to a team of dedicated volunteers and the generous support of sponsors. The aim is to spread some Christmas cheer to senior citizens who would otherwise spend the day alone. Donations of cash or in kind may be sent to the Mayor's office at Nelson City Council. Mayors Rachel Reese and Richard Kempthorne thank all those who have offered their time and goods to support this worthwhile event. Tickets can be obtained through the offices of TDC and NCC. Last weekend, spirits were seen at Fairfield House, along with quite a few other homebrewed ales. It was all part of the homebrew celebration organised by Bill and Eckhard from Icy Wings to promote the love of homebrew in Nelson, which is only fitting as Nelson is the homebrew capital of New Zealand, contrary to what is believed in Wellington, as the oldest pub and brewery in the country is in our region. I couldn't help but get along to see and taste what was going on. Daniel, we're at the homebrew event. Usually when people think homebrew, they think beer, but this looks especially unlike beer, so I'll just ask you what's going on here.
This is my home distillation setup, so I basically distill alcohol of a nature sort of slightly higher than beer, of alcohol content, so you're talking rums, whiskies, that kind of thing.
Is it quite usual for people to brew their homebrew spirits? I guess what you call it is moonshine, really, isn't it?
It is moonshining, yeah, and people have called me Moonshine Man or Moonshine Dan, but basically it's getting more popular. It's becoming popular. There was a TV program, Moonshiners, which I looked into, and that really got me set up with really got me into my setup. So yeah, it's becoming more popular, home distillation or distilling.
And as with all hobbies, it takes up quite a bit of your time and much of your money. Like, this looks pretty intense, this setup.
It's an interesting setup. It's taken a while for me to get this far. Yeah, it probably takes a little bit of money, but not as much as you might think. If you're prepared to go down the second-hand road, new copper stills and things like that, then yeah, they definitely will cost you a lot of money. But this is all sort of homemade, so it's the way I like it. Homemade.
And there's no problem with actually making homebrew whiskey or spirits with the law or anything like that?
Well, we're quite lucky here in New Zealand, and we're quite lucky in, I believe, in Australia too. It's one of the few countries left in the world where it is still legal to distill your own alcohol at home. So there's no. The problem comes, of course, when it's time to sell it. You have to pay duties and things like that. But we're very lucky, of course, here.
We're here at the Homebrew Celebration at Fairfield House. It's a fantastic turnout. We've got Bill and Eckhart here who organised it all. Hey guys, tell us a little bit about it. Is it a competition? This is what's got all the people here?
No, today is not a competition. Today is a homebrew celebration showcasing a number of homebrewers, and they're putting on some fantastic stuff. So we thought it would be nice for the public to actually get a chance of tasting it. It's our second homebrew celebration. We had one in June. So the first one was successful, so we decided to put on another one. Yep.
That's fantastic. And do you enter into any competitions, or do you organise any competitions?
I used to organize competitions through Soba Nelson, but with Icy Wings, the only competitions that we're doing are craft beer competitions. We did a craft beer versus mainstream beer taste-off here in Nelson, here at Fairfield House, back in September. And then just last week, we had a craft beer taste-off, which is strictly Wellington craft beers versus Top of the South craft beers. And that was a really great turnout at the Fork and Brewer in Wellington, and had a good number of people. And we'd like to have a return match here in Nelson, probably February, March sometime.
Oh, that's fantastic. We'll have to come down for that one for sure. And how did you go in the competition up in Wellington?
Well, I think the Wellingtonians had home advantage. They sort of took the trophy this time around, but we did have one Top of the South brewer that came in the top 5, which is Golden Bear.
One more thing, we would like actually to take this a step further, like form a national craft beer team and take them to Australia to take on the Aussies, the Aussie craft beers. And call it the all hops, the all black, the black hops or something like that. Yeah, can you imagine the homebrewers doing the craft brewers doing the haka? Can you imagine that? That would be something. So
that's something to look forward to. Hey, thanks very much, guys, and good luck. Nelson Marlborough District Health Board has put out the request for people to do a pre-Christmas clear out and bring back loan equipment like bed loops that help people rise from a lying position, toilet frames and shower stools are in extremely short supply. Director of Allied Health, Hilary Exton, said, "We are happy to loan equipment, however any unused equipment left in the garage means someone else misses out." Equipment can be dropped off at the rehabilitation equipment stores in Nelson on Braemar campus, Motueka Street and Blenheim at the rear of the hospital next to the helipad. After the break, we'll bring you the latest weather update and some events and happenings coming up from around the region.